This module is called The Science of How to Do a Three-Way Call in Network Marketing. So your prospects just got through hearing some very, very life-altering, for the better, information, and they're excited. But sometimes that prospect is also a little fearful. What do we do to help them make that transition from fearful to faithful? It's very simple. We get them on the phone with your expert. Ladies and gentlemen, if you will master this part of building your business, I'm here to tell you, money will start to flow like water from a faucet. So, your prospect just got through hearing some information. This is what you want to do. You want to get them on the phone. And the first thing that you want to do, you want to go ahead and you want to affirm what they just heard. So how do we do that? It's very simple. You say, "That was incredible, wasn't it?" And then you listen to what they have to say. This next part, you want to slow it down and ask them, what did you like best about what you just heard? Again, say this slowly. And then you want to agree with them. Why? Well, maybe you enjoyed the part about the coffee, but maybe they enjoyed the part about the Ganoderma. You want to know what they think, not what you think. So whatever they say, you want to go ahead and absolutely agree with them. You can even say something like this. You know, a lot of people say that. This next phase is very, very important. The reason why, many times people don't want to disappoint you, but we don't want to waste their time, and we definitely don't want to waste our time as well. So this part right here is very, very key in getting their real honest feedback. This is how this is done. On a scale from 1 to 5, John, 1 being you really didn't care for it at all, and 5 being you absolutely loved it, where would you say that you're at on that scale? Now, if they come back and say a 1 or a 2, that lets you know they're really not that into the program, and that's okay. You then ask them, well, hey, would you mind supporting my business by buying a box or 2 of my products? If they say no, you then say, that's okay as well. Who do you know that would be interested in working with some absolutely incredible people, multi-millionaires that have built a $2 billion business over the last 8 years? If they say no one, ladies and gentlemen, you go ahead and you thank them for their time and you move on to the next person. Now, if they come back and they say, I'm a 3 or I'm a 4 or even a 5, ladies and gentlemen, we have some people that we can work with. That's when you want to move into the next phase by saying this. My business partner told me that if I had someone who was sharp and ambitious just like you, who was at least a 3 or above, that they would be willing to actually take a few minutes out of their busy schedule and answer any questions that you may have. You then tell them to hold on so that you can take time out to get them on the line. Don't ask them if they want to speak to your expert. See, they've been programmed, like so many other people, not to talk to strangers. Plus, they think that your expert is going to try and close them or sell them. So you have to make sure that you do this correctly. My business partner told me that if I had someone who was sharp and ambitious just like you, who was at least at a 3 or above, they would be willing to answer any of those questions for you. Hold on, let me see if I can get them. That's when you click over and get your expert on the line. Now, when you get your expert on the line, you want to let them know exactly and precisely what your prospect just told you, what they like best and where they were on the scale. You might even want to give them a little bit more information in regards to what your prospect does. This way, your expert will really know whether or not they're working with someone who is used to sales or someone who's simply used to working a 9 to 5 or even owning their own business. Now, here's where the fun really begins. When you click back over with your expert on the line, you want to address your expert by either Mr. or Mrs., depending on whether it's male or female. And you want to address them by their last name only. Now, when it comes down to the prospect, you only want to mention them by their first name, unless they are a doctor, a bishop, a preacher, some role like that. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. You introduce your expert to your prospect first. I'll repeat that. Introduce your expert to your prospect first, using your expert's last name and addressing them as either Mr. or Mrs. See, there's some psychological things that are about to take place here that's going to work to your advantage. When you introduce them as Mr. This and you introduce your prospect as John or Sally, John and Sally sees and feels the edification. Remember, edification is key. Now, don't worry, when your expert gets on the line, they already know to humble themselves. So when the expert gets on the line with your prospect, they're going to actually make sure that they come down a notch or two and say, Sally, is it okay if you just call me by their first name, Craig in this instance? And now Sally's going to say, wow, that expert's just like me. But subconsciously, they're still saying, I need to respect that person. Now we've come to the last part. Ladies and gentlemen, after you've made the introduction, you want to go ahead and put your phone on mute. See, you don't want to say anything unless your expert asks you to, because if you do, you'll confuse the prospect. What do I mean by confused? Well, see, you just did a lot of edification that your expert knows everything there is to know about this business. So now your prospect knows that they can get all their questions answered by your expert. But if you start to talk, they'll then say to themselves, well, I can get the information from you. I don't need the expert. So to make sure that you don't interrupt, go ahead and put your phone on mute. But while you're on mute, make sure that you get a pad and a pen so that you can take some notes. And here's the really, really great part. If your expert sees an opening, if your expert believes that this person is ready to actually join, they're going to ask for their information. And what you want to be able to do is take all their information down. Don't worry, your expert is going to tell them, hey, listen, they're going to get your information. I'm not going to receive it. That makes that prospect feel a whole lot better. Now, after the information has been gathered, you want to go ahead and hang up the phone and take that information, ladies and gentlemen, and start to input that into the system. Your expert has already done all the hard work. Don't go back and undo it. Hang up the phone, celebrate, and get ready for the next call. That's how winning's done, and you definitely are a winner. Okay, let's do a recap. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give you an example of how this should go. You call your prospect back. The prospect answers the phone. You go, John, that was incredible, wasn't it? John says, yes, I like the information. You then say, very slowly, what did you like best about what you just heard? John tells you he loves Ganoderma. John tells you he loves residual income. You're taking notes. You then say, John, on a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being you really didn't care very much for it, and 5 being you absolutely loved it, where would you say that you're at? John says, 3. You then say, great. My business partner told me that if I had someone who was at least at a 3 or above, he'd be willing or she'd be willing to take a minute or two out of her busy schedule to answer any questions that you may have. You then click over and you get your expert on the phone. When you're on your phone with your expert, you want to say, John absolutely loved what you had to say. He loved the part about the Ganoderma and about the residual income. John is at a 3, and John, he's actually a sales manager. Or John, he's actually an auto mechanic. Or Lisa, she's a sales technician. Whatever it may be, you want to let them know exactly and precisely in a few words. You then click back over. You let them both know. All right, guys, I have you on the phone. Mr. Hill, let me introduce you to John. John, let me introduce you to Mr. Hill. You then put your phone on mute. Mr. Hill is going to say, hey, John, it's great actually connecting with you on the phone. And for all intents and purposes, for the rest of this call, you can either call me Craig or you can call me Coach. Now, if the conversation's going well and I'm getting the information, your expert's getting the information, guess what? You're going to be taking it down. You want to be able to take that information so that you can input them into the system. Once the conversation's over with, don't buy it back. Hang up the phone and go ahead and start inputting those people into the system. And let's go ahead and move on to the next new Organo business partner. Again, you are a winner. You are a champion. You are a conqueror. You are an overcomer. You are a game changer. Nothing can be denied to the one who won't be denied. This is your time to win. Practice this, learn this, and then do this. I'll see you guys on the next science of doing network marketing.